Hey guys, it's Nikki
And I'm Flossie.
with Your Thoughts Create.
We are mindset coaches.
And if you guys want to book a one-on-one session with one of us, we will link below. But in today's video, we're going to talk about how to get rid of your old story and where your assumptions come from. So Flossie, you can go ahead and start with that.
So I found that there are multiple ways that we form assumptions. And a lot of the times it's from hearing things from people in a position of trust. You know, our parents, our friends are always telling us stuff about people, things in our reality. So they might be telling us stuff like all men are liars, or all women cheat, or all men are jerks, or money doesn't come easily. It's hard to get money. You have to work hard for money.
Yeah, and because of that, we have these assumptions embedded on us. So these assumptions don't always just come from our old story with our previous relationship or our old story with our previous job or previous experiences. These assumptions can lie in us for a very long time, since childhood. And some of those assumptions are really hard to squash. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The first thing I want to bring up is my famous fuck you letters. So the best way to get rid of any kind of resistance, in my opinion, is doing fuck you letters. So what this is I write out a little hit list. Anybody that's hurt you or anybody that's damaged you in some way, sexual, emotional, physical abuse, previous relationships, rejection, if your parents weren't nice to you when you're little, write their name down on this hit list. And then once you have compiled a nice little hit list, I want you to write each one of these people a letter and tell them what you really want to say to their face. Let it all out. They're not getting this letter. And please, for the love of God, do not give these letters to anybody. Never, 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 never.
Never.
It's not a good idea. So you write one to your mom, to your dad, to your ex-boyfriend, whoever, and let them have it. As humans, we have something called respect. Well, most of us do. So we hold back a lot when we want to say something to somebody's face. So in these letters, just let it all loose. And then after you write them, burn them, destroy them. That's going to help break down that resistance wall you have between you and your manifestations.
I like to sometimes take the FU letter just a little further, and like you can write everything you want to say to that person, but then like how, how it made you feel, and then how you feel about yourself for manifesting that shit. Because a lot of times it's like we've manifested stuff whether we've liked it or not.
That's very true. I like to put all details that I can possibly remember into those letters. And I've written a couple letters to the same person just because I forgot things and things would come back up. But normally it's a one and done thing. You burn it and it's done. You let it go.
And before anybody says, well, I'm going to keep myself stuck in the old story, I'm just keeping my focus on the old story. It's like your intention when you write that letter is to be like, I'm letting this out. I'm letting this go. I'm done with it. I personally, as Nikki would attest to, wrote a FU letter that was 11 pages long. Cried for like 2 hours writing that letter. Felt a lot better afterwards, though. And that got rid of a lot of resistance that I was having to that situation.
Now, there are symptoms to writing these letters. You can cry. You can get very emotional, some anxiety, maybe anger. Get it all out. That's the whole purpose of the letter. And you will feel a shift in yourself almost immediately. And don't be surprised if people don't start reaching out in a more loving way. So if you wrote one to your mother that you have issues with, she could start presenting herself as a more loving mother now because you've gotten rid of that old story with her. However, how these help your money and relationship manifestations is it's busting down that resistance that you've had in the past so that you can move forward with a new story in the present.
And also, it helps people to not downward spiral when they see things in the 3D. It helps them not to be as reactive because when you write that letter, you're letting go of a lot of the emotion that you're holding on to about that situation. So it's easier to navigate through the 3D while you are affirming and persisting for your manifestation while you're waiting for things to conform. That's where I noticed that it helped me a lot, was I was a lot less reactive.
Yeah, that's very true. It's basically helping you push through a grieving process that you probably haven't done yet.
Exactly.
And it's a quick hack to heal your inner child. So another way to get rid of resistance, Flossie,
is the faster EFT tapping. So as you know, there's faster EFT tapping. So when you are having emotion surrounding your old story, you can literally say, I release and let this go. I release and let this go. I release and let this go down to the clavicle. I release and let this go, and then hold on to your wrist and say, it is safe for me to release and let this go. Take a deep breath in, and then as you blow out, say peace. And then you would recheck yourself. Are you still feeling emotional about this situation? And you are going to continue to tap that out until you are feeling better. When you're going to keep checking in and checking in. And when you are feeling that emotion leave you and are not reacting the same when you think about the situation, then you can go ahead and move on from it. I also say that tapping in affirmations releases resistance. And so you would do the same pattern. So if you are affirming, I'm in a loving, committed relationship with my specific person, you'd say, I'm in a loving, committed relationship with my specific person. And you would continue to tap all points while you're saying that. I'm in a loving, committed relationship with my specific person. You'd say it again. You'd say it again, and then you'd say it again when you hold the wrist, and then you can inhale out and say peace if you'd like. So in my educational journey, they have actually had a big discussion about EFT tapping, and there have been double-blind studies done by literally people in the medical field. And what they found is that EFT tapping was as effective as getting cognitive behavioral therapy and changing behavior, because it changes the brain. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone. It changes the cells in your body. And you can do so many weeks of EFT tapping. I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks. And that is the equivalent of 6 months of literally cognitive behavioral therapy. And the same result, they have the same result a year later. And so it actually changes brain, what you're thinking, as well as cortisol, your stress. And so it's like, if you're changing your brain while you're tapping in your affirmations and you're reducing that stress hormone, you're lessening your anxiety, you're having this calming effect, I believe the brain does a buy-in sooner of what you're affirming. And so we all know that another way to change the old story and your relationship to it and your resistance is by affirming. So this helps you to affirm and get to that point quicker.
Exactly. And I used to use EFT at the beginning of my journey because I was very anxious, and it did help me a lot. So
yeah.
But as far as getting rid of old stories, you want to think of these old stories as you're EFT tapping out. So whoever hurt you, that's who you want to think about. I release and let this go. I release and let this
exactly.
go. I release and let this go. So next up, we have meditation. Meditation is also a great way to get rid of the old story. Typically, there's a lot of guided meditations out there to release resistance and get rid of the old story that you may have.
Ho'oponopono. I always say it wrong. I don't even think that's the right way to say it, to be honest. I mess it up every time.
Let's say it in English. I love myself. I forgive myself. Thank you. Right?
Yeah, it's I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And you can be saying that to yourself. You can be thinking of another person. What it does is it's a forgiveness mantra that's from Hawaii. It's Hawaiian, or the Ho'oponopono. That's why they call it that. And so you would repeat this, and you just let your mind go where it goes. Like, you're going to think about yourself. You're going to think about your person. It's just, you're going to release a lot of emotion surrounding that, because it's doing forgiveness work is what it is. Forgiveness to yourself. You can do the forgiveness for the other person, because you're the creator of everything in your reality. So ultimately, you are apologizing to yourself for everything that you've created, and kind of to those people for having them play the roles that they've played.
Now, there's really no wrong way to say it, because it's really just an affirmation. So I've done it before, and I just say, I forgive myself. I love myself. Thank you. That's all I say. I love and forgive myself. Thank you. You can say it in whatever way is comfortable for you, but there are a ton of prayer or hypnopono, whatever you want to call it. I can't say it properly. There's a ton of meditations out there that you can listen to, or, say, I guess, sing along with it. So, lastly, I don't practice revision, but revision's another great tool to let go of your old stories. And Flossie is the one that talks about revision.
So when you're doing revision to get rid of a cycle or pattern, what you would do with that is you would create affirmation statements, revision affirmation statements that have the past participle verb form. And that is the have, treated, has been, has chosen, have chosen, things like that. And you're going to use an absolute like always. And so when you're creating a statement, if all your relationships have always included cheating of some kind, you would affirm something like, all the men in my life have always been loyal, faithful, honest, and committed to me. And so when you say something like that, you're basically saying all the men have always been this way. That's how they are now. And that's how they're going to be in the future, because that's the way it's always been. That's the way it's always going to be. And so you create statements based on your specific situation. All my relationships have always been long term. I have always been wealthy. I've always had more money than I could ever spend. All my relationships have always been healthy and loving. My childhood was always safe and secure. I always felt safe and secure when I was a child. You would create statements for your specific situation, and then you're going to loop those statements for several minutes, 2 to 4 times a day. These are done separate from your regular affirming because you're doing revision. And you do it for a minimum of 3 days. And you do it until either you feel great about the statements, your first thought about whatever subject is what you're revising it to, or you only remember what you're revising, because you can get to the point doing this that's all you're going to remember, because you're changing your thoughts, and it can change your memories.
Exactly. So just to recap, the fuck you letters, EFT tapping, meditation, and revision. So those are the 4 best ways to actually get rid of your old stories and clear any resistance you may have between yourself and your manifestations.
Exactly. And so get rid of that shit, get it out of the way so that you can get what you want and get it faster. That's what this is all about, right? Is getting what you want and not waiting 1,000 years for it. Get rid of the resistance so that when you're affirming and persisting, it's easier to keep a clean mental diet, and it's easier to see the people or situations in your reality as different, because you start seeing them as the different version, and they conform.
Exactly. So Flossie and I will be uploading some more videos here shortly, within the next coming weeks. If you guys have practiced one of these techniques, please comment below. Let us know how your results are. If you need additional one-on-one coaching with one of us, we will link that below. And if you'd like a manifestation evaluation with me, that will also be linked below. We will see you guys later.